We are cruising, fellas. 4th week in a row, Arthur.
Wow.
They said it couldn't be done. But we had just that little content.
They told us not to do it. We said, no way.
Give you a sense, people, just how scant our ideas meetings are. Will we do tangent again? Done.
An hour is a long time.
It is.
Well, it's ever popular, Joe.
Well, indeed. Some early quick hits for you, lads. Has anybody watched the Tour de France version of Full Swing / Drive to Survive on Netflix? No, I have not. I've seen it there.
Yeah.
Seen it loitering on my Netflix screen.
What's it called? What's the...
Oh, I'll check.
Chain reaction or something?
Yeah, I think it's called
something like that. It's one of them. It's one of them. Yeah,
Unchained,
yeah.
I think it's
Unchained.
Chain reaction.
No.
That's a better name.
I would consider that a flooded market at this stage.
Oh, and the rest.
I mean, I don't have time to get invested in any of these things, like, you know.
Yeah.
Do you ever? Well, no, I was just going to say, do you ever look through Amazon Prime and see how many of the all or nothings have been done for football clubs you never even heard of? Like, you've heard of the clubs, but you never heard of these documentaries.
I got 40 seconds into the Juventus one and it was obvious it was going to be horrific. Yeah.
Whereas I was enjoying the Arsenal... Excuse me. I was enjoying the Arsenal one, and I just one of those, like a TV show that you're not in love with, that you just never get around to episode 3 on. Episode 4 or whatever. So it's like, again, there's too much choice out there.
Yeah.
You end up watching nothing.
Yeah. I think even you just see, it automatically plays an ad on Netflix.
Yes.
And it's the same styling of camera shots, the same mood music, the same... Nobody realises how tough it is out here. It's so tough. And I just thought, no. Just been
Not for me.
saturated with this stuff, Hello, Joe and team. John Brennan says, I'm really enjoying this segment. What weird and wonderful turns it can take. Explaining to my American wife why a Dick Moran reference had me in stitches. Personal highlight, says John. He does ask 2 questions, which we feel we've already dealt with in previous episodes, but the Dick Moran compliment, I suppose that's you, Mick. Well done. You had John in stitches and his wife looking on.
It's an overall compliment using Dick Moran as an example, I would say, yeah.
Dear, that's a spiky response. Okay.
Spiky, I was just reluctant to take praise.
I didn't beat Claire, Limerick did. Don't come at me.
Lads, I've been in such a humour all week because of that.
Yeah, between the heat and Limerick beating Claire.
Sticky and hurling defeats, yeah.
Yeah. Is it? Are you better off leaving your window open or closed at night time?
It's hard to know.
See, I'm leaving it closed. The doors are. I don't want flies and everything coming in.
I don't think flies come in unless the light's on.
No, they'll come in. They'll come in. Yeah.
I think this time of year they do get inside and they're hard to get back out.
They are hard to get back out.
That's the problem. You've one or two and they go.
Like several times this week, the peace and quiet has been interrupted by zzz, and you're like, oh no.
Do you know what we bought?
That'll be an hour to get rid of. One of those things that electrocutes.
No. I was thinking about one of the strips, but it's unbecoming. One of the Venus flytraps.
I don't know those. The strips.
Oh, no. Oh no, not the strips, but the Venus flytrap. A little plant.
Oh.
And you I've yet to see a fly into it.
Right.
But if you can kill it first, humanely, and then put it,
what is going on?
It's no better than the strip or the electric.
It'll eat the fly.
Oh, isn't it nourishes the plant?
Oh yeah.
So it's like a circle of life thing that you feel better about yourself.
Yeah. It's a little bit. What's that? Is that what's nothing wrong with that? No one's.
I don't think we've ever gone on as much of a tangent, honestly, before.
But hang on, genuine question: would you feel guilty after killing a fly?
No.
I don't feel good about myself now. I have to say.
You know what I don't
increasingly.
I don't mind if I do it myself. I don't like being asked to do it.
Yeah.
I don't like being asked to kill that moth.
Oh well, there's a fear of spiders from somebody in my house who asked me to deal with spider situations on a regular basis,
and
then gets absolutely horrified when that spider may not survive the dealing with.
Yeah.
I was like, you can't have the best of both worlds here. Like,
their life
take and eat it here. Like,
No,
blunt force approach to it.
By the way, I blame sports commentary entirely, but Venus flytrap always makes me think of TJ Reid every single time. He seems to be compared to a Venus flytrap whenever he catches a high ball in the air.
What?
Yeah.
Never, ever.
He seems to be compared with it every time, says Will.
Literally never heard that.
Yeah, It's overused commentary at this
You
stage.
can find me one clip of that.
No problem.
I'll make you a coffee for a week in here.
Ooh. It's a pity we have a coffee machine. A bespoke
Is this
coffee as
Marty,
opposed to. I've definitely heard it in the RTE commentary. I've heard it in local commentary a lot over the
It's a
years.
clunky line to get out, isn't it?
But yet it evokes the perfect image of this, plant opening up and the ball just getting trapped inside it. But then Arthur just ruined it for me by saying that it doesn't catch them in midair.
Oh no, it's not moving around. It's not like it's not like
not live.
So that's in a film. What film is that in where he starts having to feed? No, he starts having to feed it bodies.
I don't know.
It's not. I don't know what it was, but I saw it anyway.
Essentially, the next time
someone will
DJ
feed
Reid
that
catches
in.
the ball and he goes up in the air and catches it like a Venus flytrap. Nonsense.
I don't want to go too down far this route. Where would you draw the line?
Yeah, you continue.
Bumblebee.
No, I won't kill a bee.
I'll kill a wasp with a tea towel. Tea towels are very good for killing wasps.
Why would you kill a wasp but not a bee?
Bees are only out there doing good.
Yeah, I will try and. I mean, on the fly thing, flies are hard enough to kill. I will try and sort of shepherd it out the window. Is generally my first move.
Then after that,
not out of any kind of humane desire to preserve the life of the fly, but just because it's easier.
Okay. And how long would you give that? 10 seconds before you go whacking at it?
Probably about 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a long time to be trying to lure a fly out a window.
I mean, you shouldn't be killing a bumblebee.
No,
No, I don't.
I advocate it.
You'd rarely have bumblebees in the house, I find, anymore.
problem.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what's the problem? Anyway,
I don't know. Apparently wasps help by cleaning up other insects and stuff. They do some good as well.
I don't want them flying around my sitting room, though.
I know, but they get the
plenty of
reputation
them
of
as well.
being kind of the scumbags of the.
Yeah. Repeat stingers, I think.
Yeah, maybe that's the problem. Maybe because a bee can only do it once and then he's gone.
Is that true about a bee?
Apparently so.
I thought a wasp had the same.
No, they can
They
stop you
can go
multiple
at you all
times.
day.
Little Shop of Horrors is the name of that film.
Right.
Erica's just passed on.
Okay, very good.
It's about a plant in the back
Very
of the
important.
shop, and he has to be feeding stuff into it. Yeah.
I've seen it. It's terrifying.
Eat me.
It's terrifying.
Yeah,
I'll never
yeah.
look at TJ Reid the same way again.
Yeah.
Hi, Summer.
Right, let's settle down and push on then. So we'll get to some of your emails. A slight tangent at offtheball.com. Naisha, who includes age 23. You have previously said in this slot that Aaron Levine is, quote, one of the worst national anthems in the world. While I would disagree, there are anthems far worse, I would say that the reason people think it's one of the worst anthems in the world is because only half the crowd sing Aaron Levine at matches. Don't roll your eyes just yet, Joe. For instance, the Welsh national anthem, or the Flower of Scotland, God help us, when heard on its own is probably one of the most boring anthems of all time. But when 70,000 people all sing together, it sounds like an unbelievable song. My question would be, would it be better for every person in Lansdowne Road to sing Aaron Levine before soccer rugby matches to create an atmosphere instead of what we currently do, which is 20,000 people singing, 30,000 people being too disinterested, anti-nationalistic to sing? I don't think that's
It's just too cool for school, not to be.
I also just don't agree. Everyone sings Aaron Levine at the games.
Yeah.
Well, up until about the last chorus, and then they start shouting, "Come on, Clare! Come on, Limerick!"
Well, yeah.
or whatever.
I mean, if the question is, would it be better if everyone sang? Yeah. That's it's quick.
Is there a reason or not?
I think the Flower of Scotland is beautiful, even if one person.
Oh,
sang it.
absolutely. It's a
I think
gorgeous song.
The Welsh national anthem. To be fair to Naisha, that is particularly elevated by,
Yeah,
they can
see
sing a
where you're
tune.
coming from with it always sounds better when the stadium.
Yeah.
You could Flower of Scotland, the rugby matches, turning off the music for the last verse is just magic, But I don't think that Aaron Levine is as rousing a song. I have to be honest. I just don't think it has that. It has the that's literally the only part. None of the rest of it is.
Yeah.
It gives you those feels. I have to say.
Now there's still a great atmosphere when 50,000 people at the Aviva sing it full-throated, or similarly at Croke Park. But that doesn't mean the neutral at home is going, oh, love this one,
Yeah.
and hums along.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Whereas France, Italy,
Yeah.
Scotland,
Yeah.
and the vastly underrated German anthem.
Is keeping countries' histories and leanings aside, is God Save the King better than Aaron Levine?
I thought you said
I think it's awful.
It's an upgrade.
And that's I don't know whether that is
Yeah,
some
don't
sort
like
of
it,
inbuilt
no.
bias, but I think it's a boring old song. That's not rousing anybody, is it?
Doesn't that kind of just drone a little bit as well because it's such a repetitive song? I don't think we're unlucky in a way because in the Six Nations we're up against four of the
All-timers.
I would say top tier
Yeah,
anthems.
I know.
Unlucky, yeah. Keeps us down.
A slight tangent at offtheball.com. Hi all, LTFT. well done on the great work you do. A few more compliments thrown in. At production meetings, do you all review the shows and performances of the interviewees and or interviewers? Do you recommend changes to each other's interviewing style and critique work? How do you manage quality control? Is an interesting email in. How truthful do we want to all be here?
This is the first time we've ever had this conversation.
I would say my instinctive response to that is I would think we are very hot on the guests, would talk about them quite a bit, would also talk about the editorial line taken in pieces. Like there was a piece with Lydia Hislop a couple of weeks ago which really irritated me because I felt I was too soft on horse racing in it, too reasonable. And you know, so we would tease those things out, and I would definitely the three lads here, obviously whoever walked in, I'd bounce, what did you think, or all the time. And equally, like a lot of the time it's saying, God, that person was really good, or that piece went well, you know. Like last night I texted you to say strong show last night, for instance. I'd say we're very, very good on, and they're not, we don't have big meetings because there's just not enough time. I think it's quite,
constant.
It's an ongoing conversation, I would say.
Calibration on it. That was good, that was bad, not sure about that person again, if being honest.
We also, like, almost every show will have a debrief at the end, which I would find very useful, but when you're like the last show of the day and you're finishing at 10 p.m, it's not really doable. I mean, you're stopping people from getting home, and those conversations are never as fresh or as honest or as useful 24 hours later, you know. So there is that with us, so that we're kind of doing it after every piece rather than after every show.
Yeah, there's ad breaks. Like after the news round tonight, there was a very quick conversation between you and me, and I was like, that didn't work, because we kept going back to sports washing, Saudi investment, and it's just like a black hole, grim conversation, especially on a sunny evening. And I kept bringing us back there. It's where the texts were going, and then I kept saying, I'm so bored talking about this on air, which you rightly said, I'm not sure if that's the best way to deal with it. So like we would both give that
really bringing people inside.
I did enjoy the line. I think you said, please keep listening. I think
I think we would, I'd give that news round like a 3 out of 10. There were no good stories either.
Listeners,
listen to the podcast though. Listen to the podcast though.
I wouldn't tonight.
Okay.
All my work putting that podcast together.
Sorry.
Go on.
Rubberneck on it then. Listen to how bad it was.
Berlusconi chat.
Berlusconi chat was good, yeah. But then we got mired in that crap. Like it is just
of Saudi stuff.
Yeah, it's grim.
Absolutely.
Where I don't think we, my last word in all this, sorry, I'm rabbiting. Where I don't think we probably impart thoughts and critique is each other's performance. I'd be very loath to turn around to anyone and say, I think you have a habit of doing this, or you do that, or you should do it that way. And equally, I don't find really anyone says it to me. I wouldn't find too often anyone comes in and says,
sure, I mean, why mess with perfection, Joe?
I'd like to see them try, Arthur. So that'd be my sense, that we and it's difficult because you're like, we're all human beings, and like, is Will going to phone me up and say, listen in on Sunday, I have a few notes.
Sorry, buddy. Here's the issue 6.5 minutes into the pay-per-view.
But you might, I would totally understand if you're listening going, he's a habit of doing X, Y, and Z, you know?
I think I wouldn't have a problem saying it to you if I thought something was particularly repetitive or wrong or something you could have changed. Or
you've never
similarly, if it went the other way, I wouldn't have a problem, say, with you texting me and saying the same.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do it though.
Yeah,
I mean, I've written out the text every time.
I know it's better not saying that now. I'll ruin a Sunday.
I think we project
midway.
I think this is taking us out of the thing, just in like human nature and how these things are dealt with, you know, in a manager way, especially. Like, I think we project sensitivity onto people sometimes that isn't fair. You know, it's like, oh, I can't say that because how will so and so take it? Which isn't, you know, it's like, let them decide how they take it, you know. And I think we can all be guilty of that. And look, it's not as if there's a huge amount of, like, you know, negative things swirling around that you don't say to people, but I think awkwardness can be a factor in that as well, you know. Let's face it, you know, it's
Do you know, I'm actually worse, Mick, at giving compliments than saying something I might have thought could have been done better on the show. Sometimes, like, we do really good stuff.
Worse at it.
Yeah, like we do really good stuff, and like I won't send the text or won't make the comment and say, do you know what, actually I thought that was really good, or you did a fantastic job on that, or I'd be more likely probably to say something negative than something positive. something distinctly, I think, Irish about that. But
I think that's the other way around. You're more likely to like something negative than hear something positive, not say something positive.
maybe there's part of that. But I'd be very, very slow to say to someone, "You've done an excellent job on that."
Yeah. I do think feedback though is very important, and we probably, now that we're having this on-air therapy session, we should probably do it more often, because I want to hear from you guys in particular about negative stuff that won't be taken negatively or as a criticism, but as something to help get better, and I think that should work with basically everybody in this room,
Yeah.
But there you go. Being honest with the listener is not something that you can probably accuse us of.
We get enough
not being.
There's so much
enough feedback from listeners.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
I was going to say the outside.
I'm sure
there's
it's
so much
coming in
outside
now.
noise
Thank God I'm not looking at my laptop right now.
Like, you look at tweets and you look at, say, a text that might come in or whatever else, you could get totally lost in them if you really wanted it. But
I haven't looked at text since 2014.
He gets them sent. Yeah, if you're ever blaming Joe for not reading out your texts, it's because it probably hasn't been sent through to him.
Don't hear that. Don't want to see that. Because sometimes the right thing to do is the unpopular thing to do, but you can't be thinking 2 steps ahead. Which brings us to BT Sport.
Oh, wonderful.
So I don't want to overdo this, because I talked about this with John Bruin last night, so I've kind of said my piece. But their coverage on Saturday was their sign-off after 10 years of BT Sport. Jake Humphrey also signing off. TNT Sports is coming in. And it was, I would say, in keeping with most of their coverage, really incredibly maligned. From Des Kelly getting the autograph from Gundogan on television, to not even mentioning once the 115 charges. Just the general conversation doesn't seem to fire or work. It's very cheerleady. The line at full time about it being the greatest story in
club football history. That was the line. Finally having its ending. Which
I can't. Do you know what? I could not. I heard this after. I saw it on Twitter. I was watching. I said last night I was watching RT. I can't actually believe that was said with a straight face. I never even heard anybody talk about City in that way. Like, everyone knows they were in League One or whatever. Grand, they were a semi-big club before that.
Yeah.
It's like, what's he going on about? Like, it was just a bananas. Approach to take to the end of that game, wasn't it?
It's very strange.
More like the journey of Pep Guardiola. There's a load of things you could say there that are a little bit more genuine.
It kind of hung in the air as well. It didn't actually go anywhere. That comment was made, and then it was like, oh, we're back over to the guys here at the desk. Let's have a quick conversation.
It seemed to then have prepared quotes from Noel Gallagher ready, should they win, to explain what it means to a Man City fan. Which again, Noel Gallagher shouldn't be 30 seconds after the final whistle.
No.
This is what it means to the fans. And I think there's a constant effort to appease the fans they think are watching. I just feel they've collectively lost their confidence a touch, and they've probably had a lot of abuse from whichever fans are watching. And there's a degree of trying to just appease them at every turn. And in the end, then, those fans are still not going to be overly complimentary, and yet you're alienating the neutral with a brain who's watching, so you kind of end up in no man's land. So I do feel like that they're a very self-conscious outfit at the moment, and they're afraid of criticism, and therefore they're doing nothing.
I watched the best part of 5 hours of the coverage. I just couldn't turn it off.
Yeah, I kind of hate watched it.
There were so many things I was wondering while watching it.
5 hours.
Why was Joleon Lescott being positioned as a Manchester City through and through fan? He's not. I think he supports Aston Villa, doesn't he?
Gave a big shout out to Sheikh Mansour at the end.
Yeah. But even on the commentary, it was like 5 minutes to go in a Champions League final, Inter pushing for a goal, and you're asking Joleon Lescott how nervous you are about the fact that City are nearly over the line.
Yeah.
Just felt bizarre.
I know. If I say Man City to you, do you think
Lescott,
Summerby, Lescott?
Yeah,
because I was kind of thinking
it's just their answer to Michael Richards, isn't it?
But I was also thinking Steve McManaman's in commentary. He played for City too
for about as long as Lescott.
Lescott won the league though. He was there for 2012.
Great.
I was you can't write out as part of. I suspect from Man City point of view that team and that breakthrough is still very fondly remembered. So I suspect.
What did you make
Lescott?
of it?
Do you know? Funnily enough, when I turned it off and then had a kind of got fed everything back and clips and everything else. I turned it off when Jolly and Lescott and Ed and Jego were sitting down about 45 minutes before kick-off for some pre-recorded piece. It's like, and you know what the Man City fans still think about you? It's like, oh God, no, I can't. There's just something that's so unappealing about it, and it's so...
Yeah.
At the same time, I was like, oh, maybe RTÉ will have a bit more of a cut off them, and some did, some didn't, and that's fine, and that's kind of the way it is. But you kind of, what can be achieved by talking about it, I don't mean not acknowledging it, which is crazy, but like, you can situate it, you can call it as absurd and sort of horrific and everything as it is, but it's still going to progress and happen, and most of the way it's covered won't reflect the negativity around it anyway. You can, like, I'm not saying don't. Like, if I was, say, to direct a coverage of that, you'd go heavily into it, but you will accept ultimately that it is still probably worthless. It's not going to change anything necessarily. You might be lauded for it, but good on you.
Except for the fact that I don't think the way they did it actually captures the mood. As you mentioned, what about the neutrals? Like, it's all very well doing a Champions League final for Man City fans. Like, whatever, do that in the group stages. Like, everybody's watching the Champions League final. In the UK, BT is the only way to do it. Like, the vast majority of people aren't Man City fans, and the vast majority of people therefore don't like Man City. And it's like, I'm not saying you should be against them or whatever, but like, it isn't reflective of what people are, your audience are actually thinking, that they don't care about that stuff, we have to educate them. It's like, they do care. They think that the Man City thing has a massive asterisk in it, and not to mention it, you're just alienating 90% of people who are watching
it felt very close to Manchester City TV.
Yes.
Which is just not what it should be doing.
And we mentioned before, you do understand an on-pitch bias towards the team of the country that you're from. Like, you know, that's fine. But when you just go to, as you said, fan TV levels, like, everybody watching that's just annoyed. Like,
and it's not reasonable to expect them to grill Jack Grealish or Pep Guardiola about it. They've just won the Champions League. Like, at that stage, I think it's something
totally
you do
agree.
pre-match, and maybe way at the back end of the production. If you're doing a final, let's put this season into context, you again have to mention the charges. But I also think, if you look at the way the panel was set up, so it's Jake Humphrey, it's Ferdinand, it's Balotelli, it's Fabregas, and it's Lescott. Like, so Humphrey, who was like incredibly maligned, like so criticised, if that's your panel, it's not like you've Eamon Dunphy there. Like, who are you going to say there is a serious situation about this club? Like, people have serious misgivings. They've already paid out a fine to UEFA. There are unprecedented charges against this club. To what extent does that hover over this final for you, Mario? Who are you going to?
But he's not going to anyone.
But
he won't go to anyone.
Well, he didn't. But I think part of the reason is he's hamstrung by that panel.
He has less interest going there than they do.
Yeah, I don't know here, Joe. I mean, BT Sport have got plenty of previews on this.
That's a good answer, because that's how I believe as well. He doesn't want to go there.
Do you remember Newcastle? When Jake Humphrey basically said that Newcastle had put all the stories to bed with this win today. Back around very soon after the takeover. Remember, there was all
cheerleader.
And he was cheerleading. It was their first home game, I think.
That's why he sees his role as, I think, is a cheerleader. You know?
I feel that's speaking to the Newcastle fans watching.
Yeah.
So that they like him. Yeah, and actually, in some ways, when you're being attacked, it is that person who might cynically go after your support that will get that most support, you know.
But it's interesting. I think that approach backfired, because they're never going to like the media at large anyway. It's just not your role, really. But actually, I think there's no respect then, which is even worse. Like, they would sort of respect someone putting it up to them and not caring. Like, I feel someone like Simon Jordan on TalkSport. Sorry to bring him up.
Jesus.
But he's one of the few in the English media.
What about Miguel Delaney, an actual journalist who does that work and exposes it?
I'm talking about broadcast.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, the broadcast, it is more difficult than broadcast TV to do it.
Yes.
Than just writing a piece. Because in writing a piece, you can be very precise and lay it out in terms. Whereas it is hard to switch from, it's amazing, we're here in Istanbul, we have to talk about this very serious thing, and now we have to get the mood back up. Like, it's not, and then you've 6 minutes to do it. But I think there's like a grudging respect for someone like Simon Jordan, who'll say things that fans don't want to hear, but deep down they know, he's got a point about that. Whereas I just think BT are falling between both stools.
That's interesting. I wonder what that is. I know what you mean. People will at the one time, it's that type of thing where not hate, but you dislike it, but you're still kind of
respect it.
There's something there. He'll eventually say something you agree with. You kind of have that kind of feel about it at the same time. Whereas I kind of feel Humphrey's doing something similar in terms of, if he's always nice about everyone, then eventually everyone will be pleased at some point with what he's saying. He's kind of copped on, this guy. Look what he thinks about whatever Eric Ten Hag compared, And I think if you don't slag off anyone, I think the one person I can remember him slagging off was that guy from what was the video with Harry Redknapp and Frank Lampard, and was it Scotty thing, the guy who obviously his career never took off in the same way. Some fan was thinking, and then this guy, whoever he was, I forget what he was, his name was, and on the BT coverage one night with Frank Lampard there, and he has a go at this guy, just takes the mick out of this guy who's nobody.
A video 20 years ago.
That kind of sums him up in terms of he'll take a shot at something, or he'll be negative or criticise someone who has absolutely no purchase whatsoever. But in terms of anything that people might be invested or interested in, just stay positive on that. Keep positive, keep moving, keep positive, and then eventually everyone thinks you're, for a little bit, everyone likes you.
Is that why he's so bad? Is that why I can't start watching him? Because it's like the Jack the Lad culture of I want to be best mates with all these famous football players, and I'm gonna overdo it and have these little fake digs about their shoes or whatever, and
the Ginola one.
Yeah, well, that's the example. But I feel like it's kind of constant, that sort of thing. It's just less cringy than the Ginola one in particular. But
there's a lot of that, particularly when they used to remember the half-five kickoffs.
We're real mates here, we're hanging out, and I'm like, get lost, Jake. Nobody cares about you,
It's very Brent-ish.
Yeah,
Brenty, yes.
So exactly. It's God Almighty.
They used to have a show at 7:30, I think, after the half-five kickoffs. Remember when BT had the late game? And they used to encourage people to send their videos in, the fan videos afterwards. And it the banter would be turned up a little bit during that, and Jake would always try and get a joke in on Rio or one of the regular pundits, which again would be I'm one of the lads. And it was cringy enough watch.
But I just don't know what they offer as well. It's not as if Sky Sports go to town on the City charges, and they will talk about it, but I think the charges stuff and it being Man City kind of clouds that there's a bigger problem there, that it wasn't how much they talk about that, it was just that they're not offering anything. I don't get any insight from any of their coverage, whereas Sky are far from perfect, but at least they have guys there who will have a real conversation, and you'll sit down at 6:30 on the Sunday and they'll they'll get into something here, and 50% of the time it'll miss and the rest of the time it'll hit, and we'll talk about what they said on the Monday. Because I can't remember ever thinking about, did you see that thing on BT, other than stupid stuff, stuff that's unintentionally hilarious. I don't remember them ever saying something that was insight. Do you?
The good one was about to be fair to them, that one why the England golden generation did work. It's 8 minutes long, and they had Gerrard, Ferdinand and Lampard on. That was pretty good.
That was that late show that Will's talking about. They had a good one with Michael Owen talking about being embarrassed later in his career training at Stoke and not being able to do it, and he was super on that. But again, there were no jokes. It was just let's just all relax here and just talk in a semi-serious way, and let's give the viewer a bit of credit. I think they just
was Humphrey on for both of them.
Saturday night gave the viewer no credit.
He was on. I haven't watched it back and thing, but I don't know how long their coverage went the night of the crash at Leicester, because they were on that night. Obviously, they were there. Yeah,
I remember that.
I don't remember, but I know they were there because I remember him having to announce it. And then did they have to fly the next day up? They had some match somewhere else. It was something crazy anyway, whatever it was. But
well, they bowed out really to the ire of everybody on Saturday, I think.
So are they bowed out though? Is it just a name change?
They become TNT Sport on July 14th.
Is that a name change, or is it a full-on ownership?
So Discovery now own BT Sports. So as far as I know, Eurosport is now part of their package as well, so they'll all be rebranded.
So is there anything outside of Jake Humphrey going to change?
I don't know.
It's going to be the same production people. They still have rights for the Premier League for a couple of seasons, I think, as part of
the Champions League.
Yeah.
And didn't John Brewin say last night that they're moving offices or something?
Again, I'm not sure if that's going to do the trick. I just want to say, by the way, I'm not Simon Jordan's biggest fan.
You are his biggest fan.
At least put that on the record.
In the last couple of weeks.
But he just is different.
Speaks truth to power.
No, that's exactly what I don't want.
If he was selling you crypto, would you buy it?
Yes.
No.
Are Jim and Simon your kind of daytime go-to?
For some reason, I've stopped listening the last 2 months. Got a bit sick of it. But before that, I'd say there was a good post-European Super League. there was a good run of listening to it most mornings. Danny Murphy, I very much like. Again, I seem to be in a minority on that one, but I think it's very good.
Yep.
I enjoyed the dynamic with Souness and Simon Jordan. I knew that wasn't going to last. And the Martin Keown dynamic is all kinds of wonderful, because be a slightly combustible partnership. But yeah, the last 2 months have just kind of sound out. Would you listen to it?
That'd have been interesting.
Time. I flick it onto YouTube more so than listen to it. If I'm at home in the morning and I'll put it on kind of as background noise, and then you get sometimes interviewees like Chris Eubank this morning. You're just like, well, I'm stuck to this.
I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it got weird.
Yeah. Mike Troy says Lydia Hislop was excellent. She was talking sense, says Mike. Yes, I think she was. What I just meant was I should have pushed her a bit more on certain points. Almost a devil's advocate kind of way. But then I sort of hate that style as well, where it's like whoever's talking.
It was a contentious enough issue, and but I actually did say at the time that I disagreed with you on your assessment of it.
So siege mentalities are up for discussion this week. Limerick are on an interesting journey with the media. We have gone from John Kiley at the outset of the championship talking about a softening up exercise on behalf of various pundits across the country, softening us up, giving out about the hype, to fast forward Dara O'Donovan at the weekend saying everyone said we were gone, everyone said we were done and buried, there were a lot of things said about us, we were only focusing on ourselves and what people are saying about us. And he also said the media just puts out a narrative and then everyone believes it because people can't make up their own minds. So shots fired on everyone. But I didn't hear anyone say that Limerick were dead and buried.
Well, you do power rankings every single week on OTB AM. Have Limerick ever been off the top spot this year?
No, not once this season. And I'm pretty sure, I was thinking about the hurling pod, even at the point when Limerick needed a result against Cork in their last game, the narrative at best became Limerick are in danger of going out of the championship if they were to lose, but we all pretty much expect Limerick to put in a performance and get past Cork.
I suppose that's goes to show what we all know instinctively, is that there needs to be no logic or sense in a siege mentality.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if John Kiley genuinely said that.
And it doesn't matter if they're completely polar opposites and don't correlate at all, but it is. I by the way, this isn't. We can talk about Limerick, but this isn't even about Limerick, because I think in some ways every sports team, and certainly every Irish sports team, seems to have some version of this. But it's a weird mindset. I'd like to know how you get into, because there's willful disbelief there, or suspension of disbelief anyway, in that there's no way that Dara O'Donovan heard anybody say that Limerick were dead and buried. So where is he getting it from? But it's
where is he getting it from?
They're saying it to each other. That's what they're saying about us. It's just like one of those things you say in a dressing room. They're all saying we're this. And it's just like, Jesus, are they? And I don't know if it even drives you. I don't know. We can talk about dressing room wall material and all that stuff.
It does.
We're well past all that.
Oh no, it does drive you.
It does get you going that little bit. Anger is a great motivator.
You say to a group of hurlers, everyone says you're dead and buried.
We'll show them.
100%.
Yeah. Because you do need that extra motivation. You do need that,
But I would love to know who started the rumour in the dressing room, Well,
it's not even that, I'd say. It's just extrapolating different meaning from things you see, where there are, you'll see things that are slightly less full of praise than they would have been this time last year. So it's they've changed their tune. So it's everything becomes extreme.
But if you're smart, and I'm sure that Limerick dressing room is full of smart people, and say they're paying attention to the media, they know that's people are saying, they're not where they were, but they're still a great team, they're still favourites. That was generally the message. It's very hard to trick yourself into hearing something that deep down you haven't heard. That's why it is this willful sense of delusion.
Well, maybe, but I don't think it's grand. Yeah, if it's you on your own. But if there's 50 of you all in, compared with everything and staff and players, and everyone's talking about it, and it's I don't think they are. I don't think there's any team that'll be actively talking about. Remember, lads, remember what they said. But it is all has to be do is just dropped in every now and again, And then, you know, and it's like it can be one thing could be said. Like a lot of these things that we wouldn't pick up, say, nationally, that would be said locally.
Sure.
Like you remember that famously the thing with Shane Dowling back in 14, where it's like he scores the winner against Tipperary in Munster Championship, and then in the aftermath talks about like a text message that had been sent to, I think, the club chairman about him being useless.
Right.
And it was like, you know, everyone knew who this was supposed to be, and it was like, but it was like the text was obviously real. Whoever sent it, I don't know who sent it, but like that was like, now did that text make Shane Dowling good enough to score? No, it did nothing. You know what I mean? It had nothing to do with it really. But I suppose depending on where the story goes, it's handy to have.
I would love to know if Darragh O'Donovan heard a discussion or read something and took that as the interpretation, or
they're all saying it to each other.
If someone said, geez, they had a massive go against us and off the ball last night, which might have been us saying, oh, they're not as good as they were, but they're still favourites. But that becomes, they had a massive go at us, and by the time it's passed down to Darragh O'Donovan, it's everyone's saying we're dead and buried. I just couldn't believe he would listen to what's been said about them and think everyone's saying we're dead and buried. I feel like that's second, third, fourth hand information.
So a rather famous, I'll say hurler. It was a hurler. That's as far as I'll go. Right, we
Daly.
do the show one time. No, it wasn't Daly. It wasn't. Don't say names because then I'll deny it. Right. So we were doing a live show one time in the place where this person is from.
What year?
Stop it, show. And there was a conversation that was about them that was really positive. Like, I mean, this was like,
oh, I know
this person is like, you know.
Can I just say Cork?
Yeah. That's really giving it away. Right. But anyway, it was a conversation about this person and their mindset and innovation and etc. Right.
Yeah.
And a half an hour later, text to one of the people on the show, which was, this is disgraceful. I heard you were talking about me, you know, outrageous stuff. Like, you know, I'll be borderline, I'll be in touch with my lawyers. Not quite, but you know what I mean? Like, as in, like, we have defamed this person, right? And mass confusion as to what the hell did we say? You know, over and back. Eventually, an explanation. And go, sorry, what was the problem? And it was like, well, I didn't hear it actually. I was at the gym. Somebody told me about it.
Yeah.
And God only knows what that person said to him, but I guarantee it also wasn't they're really having a go at you.
Yeah.
And he just took it as that. And it's like, you hear that what you want to hear in these things. And some people will decide to text the people on the radio show, but most people will say it to themselves and use it as motivation. It doesn't matter that it wasn't true.
Can I give you two on this, Joe? And it's an insight into the Kilkenny dressing room more than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
So Paul Murphy told us on our live hurling pod at the weekend about the fact that, remember the Joe Canning comments that ended up blowing up just before the
that was terrible.
He said Kilkenny didn't talk about that whatsoever because they didn't think the Comerford had said it, so he said it got very little traction. He said the one that really inspired them was one that was completely innocuous, not too dissimilar to this. Seamus Fanning did an interview before the 2019 semi-final and said that Limerick were outworking every other team. Kilkenny got really annoyed about those comments and used that as motivation going into the 2019 semi-final. He said they talked about it repeatedly before the game, and TJ Reid brought it up in the drinks on the way home after the game as well. So it's amazing how a team can find something that would be entirely innocuous to any of the rest of us reading, but yet that's something they zoned in on. And also, an inter-county football manager a few weeks ago said a tweet that I had put up about the fact that the team were going to beat them was actually used as a motivational talk to the team. So not to take any credit for it, but I couldn't believe it was probably one of the tamest tweets I've put out in about 10 years on Twitter, and yet apparently that was used for motivation. So teams will always reach for any little percentages they can get.
It's funny when you mentioned TJ Reid there, I just saw a man being fed to a plant, but that's for another day.
One of our digital team has also created Photoshop of this already as well. So
I remember talking to Eddie Brennan, I think for the book, and he was talking about 2007 and talking about all the hype and excitement around Seamus Hickey, I think he ended up Young Hurler of the Year.
Yeah, new on the scene.
And that's nothing to do with Seamus Hickey, but whatever way with the hype and everything around it. And I think Eddie Brennan very purposefully took okay, let's see what it's like when it's there. Let's see what it's like in the final. And obviously did a lot of damage.
Yeah. I do find that's a very understandable one though. There is a kind of was it Rod Steiger who acted opposite Marlon Brando in on the waterfront in the famous I'm a contender scene, or I could have been a contender scene. And I remember watching an interview with him where he said that Brando did his shot, then they did the double shot, and your man was there for obviously Brando's shot and acting with him and all, and then when it came to Steiger's shot, Brando was was like, right, I've got a psychiatrist appointment, I'm off. Stand-in comes in, and he was like, who do you think you are? Like, I was like, I'm a good actor, I know what I'm doing. And he's like, he gave the best performance of his life on the back of the disrespect he was shown. But I think there is that, it's like, if you're hyping up everybody that isn't you, and you're like, hold on, we're the All-Ireland champions here, like, I can actually completely understand that. It's the taking the things that are ludicrous that I find hard to get my head around.
In a way, the John Kiley one was the more unusual one.
Yeah.
Everybody's softening us up. They're saying we're too good. So you really can't win. No. What do Limerick want? I mean, it's like Goldilocks down there.
Considered praise only.
There's a title.
But like, honestly...
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree.
Right.
Couldn't agree more.
But like, there is a degree of that. I'm sure some of them.
Get your defence in.
No, I'm just sure those players. Say if they're reading stuff about now Clare, right, and if Clare are in the mind for the final again, and people will be saying to them, "Oh, Clare, like himself, Clare and Limerick are on the same level. You know, it's more or less just the same."
Clare left behind them,
and they'll be like, "Okay." Clare on our level, all right.
Yeah, where's all Ireland?
You know what I mean, and stuff like that. So, and
that's the one I understand, though. I do understand
Cork.
that.
Say before the dead and buried thing, say people were saying, "Oh, Cork have a really good chance here," and it kind of gets mutated into Cork have a chance against us. And it's like, and it just keeps going and going.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Look, it's all good fun.
I don't think there's any malevolence in it. No, I just think it's like it just works. It works as a line.
Yeah.
Wait to see now if they go and win the All Ireland. There's no hurling in Limerick.
No hurling Leinster thing fits perfectly in. By the way, let's just say, like, let's not make this let's just make this Limerick focus. Brian Lohan giving out saying we don't win any those types of frees. Everybody else does. That's all.
Pressure on the next ref.
But it is a little bit. But I think he believes it. But it's also because he's just seeing things that way as opposed to like thinking about it logically. You know, I think that's again, there's no hurling in Leinster. What a brilliant line of the
shout
speech.
Shout out to Owen Cody. What a way to take the cup. Just like after these great days.
And now on to liars.
It's great stuff. Listen, it's the fuel we all need. Again, if this is not a criticism of actually anybody involved, it's more, it's fun to observe the machinations.
But you hear bits and pieces of that and you suddenly think, right, Kilkenny chip on their shoulder,
Limerick chip on their shoulder,
chip on their shoulder, Limerick chip on their shoulder. I want to hear a bit more from Galway and Tip, to be honest, so that we know this could be the saltiest hurling championship of all time.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of like Clare in the 90s,
what did Daly say? What was his thing in '95? Didn't he have something when he was captain? Say something.
No longer the whipping boys in Munster.
Was there a dancing thing?
We love our traditional music, but we love our,
something like that.
The stick to your traditional music was something that he was told in I think the Munster final in '93 or something like that. Again, maybe apocryphal, maybe not, I don't know. But so he referenced that in his speech when Clare finally won.
I never felt the Dubs had like chip on their shoulder vibes. I'm sure they didn't love the split Dublin in two and it's all money.
Crow Park. Yeah. Like read Philly McMahon's article a couple of weeks ago, which I think was fairly well lauded, about how much Dublin knew Crow Park and didn't know. Like, it was very well written.
Yeah.
But I think that suggested someone that's been kind of fed up listening to all the advantages that they've had over the years when they've won so much.
Now, I suppose I feel like the advantages discussion picked up pace as they continued winning, but I don't feel when they were doing 2 in a row and 3 in a row, and they were generally just lauded around that time in the name. I never remember one of their players picking up a trophy and saying, and they said this, or
that's who was picking them up
in a post-match. That's a good point. But even in a post-match interview, when you're a bit looser and you say, we said X and Y in the dressing room after the semi-final, and we said we'd go out. I don't remember that being.
No, me neither. Actually.
No, you're right about that, like just them being lauded. Like, I think there was so quickly that so many of those players became like that sort of all-timers, just those kind of guys, like, well, these guys are just the real, there's no questions about any of this, like, this is just supreme stuff, and kind of people accepted it.
I bumped into one of them, like one of their best players, great fella. We were waiting for a coffee at the same place during COVID, and we got chatting, and we were chatting away for a while. It was quite slow.
At a distance.
Outside, this distance anyway. And we're chatting away, and
one's coming for you now. Joke.
Oh yeah, I got right up in his grill. Yeah. And it was funny. I steered away from football most of the way, but then when it came up briefly, he did say, "I presume on the show everyone hates us, do they?"
Oh.
And I was like, not. Not really, you know, because you play great football. Like, okay, there's the finances thing and the population thing. That never really feels like that's never leveled at you or your team. I sort of said if you were a very defensive, grim team who were winning every game 10 points to 9, I'd say everybody would hate you. But I kind of think for a team who are winning as much as you're winning, you really aren't hated as much as you should be. No. And he was like, oh, right, I figured we were probably hated.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
I hate that word anyway. Like, is it not like I'd love to like say I want Dublin to lose every match they're playing in, but I don't hate you. You know, it's like in some ways, do you know what I mean? It's just like you want the sports narrative of it, but like to be fair, you have such respect for everyone as well.
Yeah. Like it's a 3-year-old conversation now. Maybe he said sick of us, whatever. But it was definitely a feeling that there's a sense of negativity towards us. Was his sense.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was hate. That's the way people talk about sport a lot.
I think the one that irked Joe was, remember just after the 5 in a row. Prime time, I think, was 2 nights afterwards, did a piece on the Dublin finances. I think that annoyed them, that they were still celebrating, and it should have been this landmark success, and then 2 nights later there's a programme on
2 nights
TV.
Seemed like the perfect amount of time. You have to do it then.
Again, I think it makes perfect sense, but I know from talking to one or two players,
still be waiting to do it.
Yeah, I know, but talking to 1 or 2 players, they didn't like that it happened as they were in the middle of celebrating the success.
So you have to wait until they're not in the lash anymore.
Sure, look, but I'm just saying, this is what players feel.
Sure, they weren't home watching prime time.
Yeah,
well, they were at least aware that it was on anyway.
Yeah,
you know.
No, I get that. Well, I don't know. You have to wait a week. I don't know.
I think the feeling one player said to me was that it was like this was ready to go in advance of us potentially.
Maybe it was.
What was that Liam Brady thing? That was in the can.
Diabolical.
What was that about?
Arsene Wenger.
Arsene Wenger's funny walks.
They're walking around like John Cleese. Say that about a great man.
Oh dear.
You've jumped over the fence, baby.
Right, we're done on that note.